Hey, what's up? My name's Samuel Leeds, and in this video I'm going to be talking about lease option agreements. Now this is quite a technical video around lease option agreements. I'm going to be talking about some of the pitfalls and the things that you need to really watch out for. So if you don't even know what a lease option agreement is and you're brand new to property investing and creative strategies where you can buy houses using very, very little of your own money, then I would suggest that you go and check out the What a Lease Option Agreement Is video that I did. I'll put a little card up where you can check it out. I'll also leave that in the description. But if you understand what they are, you get the big picture of them, and you're more interested in the legalities and the pitfalls, then this video might be for you. So there's a few pitfalls of lease option agreements, and I'm going to give you the pitfall, but then I'm also going to give you the solution. You see, some property trainers out there, they'll try and put you off doing it because they just want all the good deals for them. So they'll tell everybody else, no, don't do it, it's hard, it's wrong, it's this, it's that, but secretly they're succeeding. Or they'll tell you it doesn't work because it didn't work for them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the pitfalls, but I have successfully, I'm just going to put it out there, I have successfully built up a very large property portfolio, multi-million pound property portfolio, and I've successfully used lease option agreements to help me get there. So it does work. You can buy properties with very little money down, and you can literally, with as little as £1 transaction fee, of course solicitor fees as well, you can secure a lease option agreement, benefiting from capital appreciation and also monthly cash flow. So it's a really good way of buying properties without having to keep saving up money and putting down deposits. But there are pitfalls. I'm going to give you those right now, and then I'm going to give you the solution to the pitfall, but you have to be really careful. So firstly, if you like my YouTube channel, please do me a massive favor and smash the like button. That's the first step to being successful in properties, to smash the like button, destroy it, annihilate it, and also drop a nice comment as well, just to, give me motivation to keep going, because I don't think there's any ads on this channel, by the way. So I do this just really to help people. So drop a comment if you're grateful for the video, subscribe, turn the notification bell on. Really important. Do it right now. So first problem is with lease option agreements. If you're taking on somebody's house with the view to renting it out, you're taking over their mortgage with the view to renting it out. What happens if the current mortgage doesn't permit you, or isn't the correct type of mortgage to rent the property out? Let's say it's a residential mortgage. So you secure a lease option agreement and you say, hey, I'll buy your house now, but I'll pay for it in 7 years' time. And in the meantime, I'll take over the mortgage. So you take over this property, but it's on a residential mortgage. So how can you rent it out without committing mortgage fraud? That's a pitfall. The answer to that and the solution to that, and sometimes it could scupper a deal, if there is a mortgage on the property that restricts you from renting the property out, that could scupper the deal. But the solution is firstly, you've got to check to see if there are any restrictions, and if there are, you're going to have to ask the lender or ask the owner to ask the lender to get consent to rent the property out. Now, in my experience, what you'll find is, lease option agreements will tend to be properties that either are in negative equity, or they might not even have a mortgage on them. Or there might be tired landlords that have already got the right to rent it out. But if it's a residential property, the reason that they'll be happy to sell you the property on a lease option agreement is because they're in negative equity. If they're in negative equity, just bear with me a second. That means that they bought the property high, it's dropped down low. The mortgage lender is probably feeling pretty uncomfortable right now because the value of their house is lower than the mortgage. That's a problem for a lender. So most lenders will give consent to that property, to that owner, for the owner to rent it out as long as they're getting their monthly mortgage payments. So I would just say, ask the lender for consent. Tell the lender, look, this property is in negative equity, I've had a change of circumstances, I want to move out, please could you give me consent to rent the property out? And usually they will do that. So that's the solution around the problem. So get permission before you rent the property out, if there's a restriction on the property at all. Second pitfall of lease option agreements are, and I've heard people say this, they say the types of properties that are done on lease option agreements tend to be very cheap properties in shabby areas with bad tenants, rough neighborhoods. That's why the owner is wanting to get rid of the property in the first place. I think that's kind of a little bit of a weak pitfall, if I'm perfectly honest, because of course, when you're doing any property transaction, whether you're doing it on a rent-to-rent, a lease, purchase lease option agreement, whether it's a HMO, a buy-to-let, whatever it is, a flip even, you're going to have to do your due diligence on the area and make sure that the property is going to be cash flowing positive. So if it's in a cheap area, that means that probably the mortgage payments or the monthly payments are going to be cheap as well. So that means that the expenses are low, which means that the profit margins are likely to be higher. So you just need to make sure you're profiting. You've got a positive monthly cash flow of at least £200 per month before you take on any property, even if it's a free house. Just because it's a free house doesn't mean it's a good house. I've had some of my students that have done the lease option training, and then they've been like, oh my gosh, I'm desperate to just go and secure a lease option agreement now, and they'll go and get a deal and they'll sign it and they're so excited. But yes, technically it's like a free house. You're putting down £1, but it's a terrible house. You're going to be losing £100 a month on it. So always make sure that the property is not in a terrible area. It's going to attract terrible people, and also it's going to be cash flowing £200 a month. Okay, next pitfall. This is a real big one, and most people don't know about this because, again, I'm not mean to like be disrespectful to people that teach lease option agreements. A lot of people go on my course, do some training, maybe at best secure one lease option agreement, and then start teaching it. And it's like, no, like to teach something, you have to have done it for years. I didn't start teaching until I was financially independent in property, and I'd done it for years before I started teaching. I've been in property now for 12 years. But with lease option agreements, the reason it's so dangerous to teach it when you've not actually experienced it properly, not just secured a lease option agreement, but seen it out till the very end of the contract. Because let's say you agree to buy a property on a lease option agreement, and you say, look, I'll buy it now, I'll take it on now, I'll control it now, but I'll pay you in 5 years' time. At the end of the 5 years, when you go to buy the property, most mortgage lenders, in fact, I think just about all mortgage lenders, will be unhappy when you apply for a mortgage to buy the house, unless you're buying it cash. But realistically, are you going to have the cash? I mean, you might have saved up monthly, and you might have a deposit ready, but you're probably going to want to buy the property, and you're probably going to want to buy it with a mortgage at the end of the term, and you actually go to buy it. So you've saved up your deposit, maybe you've saved it up from the property, you apply for a mortgage. But if the lender knows that you have had a previous interest in that property, which you have, because you're probably going to have registered a restriction on the title deeds on land registry so that the owner can't sell the property anyway. So you're probably going to get declined a mortgage at the end of the term, because they're going to say, no, you've already got a financial interest in this property, therefore it makes us uneasy, and we're not going to lend you the money to buy this property. Now you might say, why would they do that though? What's the problem? Don't sign up for that Y class. It is what it is. What's the solution? So that's a major pitfall that most people aren't aware of that do lease option agreements. Even people that teach lease option agreements, I'm like, they don't even know this. So I have successfully completed lease option agreements right to the bitter end, okay, many times. And what you do, there's a couple of options. Option number one is you buy the, and this isn't completely foolproof, but this usually will work. Option number one is you buy the property at the end of the 7 years, but you buy it in a company. So you set up a company, you call it Purple Rain Limited, whatever you want to call it, and then Purple Rain Limited, which is your company, buys the property at the end of the term. Now, the lender won't be so worried then, because it's not you buying the property, it's the company buying the property, and the company hasn't had an interest in the property, but you have. Now, the only potential issue with that is if the owner refuses to sell it to the company because they say that you had the contract with them and they don't want to sell it to Purple Rain. It's rare that will happen, but it could happen. So that's option number one. There is a second option, which I have also done. Option number two, which is to buy the property, but buy it on a bridging loan. So you're going to put down your deposit that you've saved. Hopefully you've saved it as a result of the cash flow from that property over the 5 years or however many years. You're going to use that money and you're going to buy it on a bridging loan. Now, bridging loans are obviously a bit risky because they're expensive. You're going to pay maybe 1% a month. But what you're going to do is you're going to buy it on a bridging loan. You're then going to also maybe borrow some money or use your own money to refurbish the property, because chances are after 5 years of owning a property, it's probably going to need a little bit of a refurb. So you're going to change the carpets, you're going to fix it up, and then you're going to refinance the property, but after you've bought it. So that's another option, which will totally get around the problem. So there are pitfalls to lease option agreements, and it does involve work, but there's always solutions when you know how. So I hope you found this video helpful. I am going to be running a lease option webinar, which is going to be a live webinar where I'm going to be teaching through how to find lease option agreements, how to secure them, how to speak to the seller and explain it in such a way where you can secure properties, which is a remarkable way to buy a property and it's much better than saving a deposit. So I'll leave in the description, I'll leave a link to that webinar. It's completely free, so I hope to see you there. And again, smash the like button if you enjoyed the video. If you want to know what a lease option agreement is in the first place and this video completely confused you, then I'd suggest you check out this video right here, which goes through the basics of lease option agreements. Also, if you want to see a video I did with Ian Patterson, one of my students, who actually built up a very large portfolio of lease option agreements, which proves that they do work and they are profitable because he left his corporate job. Check it out right here. Subscribe. Check the videos out. I'll see you next time. Thanks.